What's going on, guys? It's your girl, Rebecca Ruber, here with Inside the Ring. And today on the show, we have former amateur standout and current WBA Intercontinental Super Lightweight Champion, Kenneth Sims Jr. And how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I feel pretty good. Just ready for this week to get here, for the fight to get here so I can enjoy my family. I miss my family. I've been gone for like 6 weeks, so
Wow,
ready to
six
get
is a
to
long
work.
time. And with a baby on the way too in February, I mean, it must be hard to
Yeah,
be away. And
it
how
is.
has it been transitioning with that?
Uh, honestly, so I talked to Andre Ward when I first had my daughter, and he was telling me like it's gonna be different going to camp now, and I like it's definitely different. Like it can't at first. Like I miss my fiance, of course, but it's like just a total different thing. Just missing my daughter, just because like when I'm on the phone, I see like she doing new stuff that she wasn't doing when I left. So sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on stuff just being there with her. But I
Yeah.
know like I'm away for a reason, is to change our lives. So I just it makes me happy that I'm be able to. The plan is to be able to just take care of her and make sure her life's good. So that helps me a lot.
Well, before we get into current day, where you're at now, I love to start with fighters that I've interviewed for the first time from very humble beginnings. So, when did you pick up your first pair of gloves and why?
Oh, that's a funny story. So I started boxing when I was like 8, 7, but I mean, like my dad would when I was a kid, like a baby. I remember him like putting me on a table. We would be at restaurants, and the only thing he would tell me like 1, 1, 2. So I would be like uh doing like on the table, hitting his hands like
Hmm.
as like a 3, 4 year old. But I didn't box. He liked boxing, so he'd be doing that. But one day he came up to my school, and I used to be really small, and I never got bullied or nothing. But he always was just like, "We're gonna put you in boxing to make sure, like, if you ever come across any problems, you'll be able to defend yourself." So he put me in it. I started with my cousins. They all quit. I used to hate boxing, honestly. I was like, so my dad used to work at UPS, so he didn't have time to like train me all the time. So he'd send my mom, he'd have my mom take me to the gym, and I ask her on the way, like, can we just go to the park? Cause I was like, yeah, go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. And then she'd be like, no, I'm not about to take you to the park. Your dad gonna be like, he gonna call the gym, be like, how can he do today? And we're gonna be like, you wasn't there, so we're going to the gym. So then I ended up liking it when I was like a teenager, but I used to hate it. And he was just like, then he was like, you can quit once you like learn how to do it and get good. But once I got good at it, I didn't want to quit. So
Well, I was gonna say, was there like a moment in time where it kind of you remember it just clicking and you're in yourself thinking, "Oh, I could see myself going somewhere with this."
uh yeah, I had that moment, but I kind of started liking it before that moment because I had been doing it so long and I was like meeting a lot of people at tournaments and stuff. So I guess like the boxing people became my friends and I got comfortable being around them. Like even like people that went to tournaments with me,
Mhm.
they just they made it easier for me to like boxing because they were around. But the moment it clicked that I could do something like with my life with boxing, I remember I was 16. It was at the national PAL. So like as a junior in tournaments, I was okay. Like I'll win sometimes. I always make it to like the semifinals, but sometimes I win. And then the age group was 17 to 34, but I was still 16. And I got the opportunity to fight in the men's age just because the Olympics were coming around and I'd be old enough for the Olympics. So they just like, okay, you're 16 right now, but by the time the Olympic trials and stuff start, you'll be 17. So I won. I ended up winning that tournament. I didn't even go into that tournament expecting to win because I was only 16 and everybody was like adults. But
Yeah.
when I won that, that's when I like it hit me in the head. I was like, maybe I might be really good at this and I could do something with it.
Well, I feel like, especially in a sport like boxing, it's It's a lot of physical, but I think more than anything, it's a mental game.
Mm.
And I think it's hard to accomplish what you've accomplished for someone that's passionate behind it, but for someone like yourself that wasn't passionate about the sport to begin with, what pushed you through to continue fighting? And do you have any words of advice to people to continue persevering things that maybe they do or don't like?
Um, yeah, I think the thing that helped me is just my competitiveness. Like I'm competitive at at everything. My fiance, she'd be like, we'll be at home and we'll be doing something. I'll be like competing with her, like without saying I'm competing. She asks like, why are you so competitive? You always gotta win. So I think just taking that attitude at life period helps a lot. Just because I'm competitive, and then me being competitive, I think that turns into confidence when you win. So I think that just helps with life.
Well, clearly what you do has been working because eventually you ended up earning a spot on the USA boxing national team. So can you tell me a little bit about that experience? And was it being on the national team is what sparked that flame for you to want to go pro eventually?
Uh, yeah, that I could say that. Cause it was managers reaching out to me before that when I was like 17. It was managers reaching out to me to turn pro, but I was just like, I'm not ready, not yet.
Mhm.
But when I made the national team, that was the first year they took headgear off in the amateurs. And at nationals, I got like a scrape, a cut the first day at nationals. So I'm thinking, oh crap, I won the fight. I got cut, and I was just like, oh crap, I ain't gonna be able to fight the
Mhm.
next 2 days. But they just like put some butterfly stitches on me, and then I won nationals and made the team. But I I just turned pro after the world championships because I know it's a lot better now. Like, cause I'm still around and I watch. I keep up with everything, with all the amateur boxing, everything, and I could tell it's a lot better now. But when I was on the team, it didn't feel like it was organized really. So
Mhm.
I just felt like they were just winging it. And at that point, after Worlds, after that, and I felt like they just winged stuff at Worlds, at the World Championships too, and that's what convinced me to kind of like just say, okay. And it was no headgear anyway, so I was like, all right, I might as well turn pro and try to make some money if I'm fighting with no headgear anyway.
Well, what are your thoughts on the use of headgear, specifically in amateurs? Do you feel like it's better without the headgear just because you have better peripheral vision, or do you think it's more harmful to the fighters?
I think a little bit of both because I don't really like the headgear. Like even when I'm sparring, I don't like the headgear. I use it, but I don't. It annoys me,
Yeah.
and I think it helps you prepare to turn pro because my last year fighting, I didn't fight with a headgear, so the transition was a little
Mhm.
easy. But I do think like I don't know. I think my only thing with the headgear is the cuts. Really, it's not. I don't really think about like the taking the punches because I feel like the headgear helps that, but it doesn't really do a lot. But I think the headgear really just like for me personally, I think the cut situation is where the headgear thing kind of comes into play.
Yeah. And how old were you when you went pro?
20, I believe. Yeah, I was 20.
You're 20 years old. So at 20 years old, I mean, I know I would not think about going pro at 20 years old because at that time I have other things that I'm prioritizing, being with friends, going out. At the time I was in college. So there was different priorities. So how was it? How did you find that balance between being able to have a social life or to just live a life of a young guy, but then still have a professional career at just 20 years old?
I kind of I kind of missed out on all of that. Honestly. Like even when I was 20, I kind of missed out on all that. Like now I'll go out sometimes just because I'm an adult now, but I like I don't as a younger guy, like even 20, 21, 20, like I just started going out sometimes, like occasionally with my friends and stuff. But I missed out on all that like teenage years, high school, everybody was going to party and stuff, and I like I never went to a party when I was high school. Like I missed out on all of that. Boxing was the fun, like the tournaments, going to tournaments and just hanging out with all the other guys. That's where I had my fun. One of the guys that really had a big impact on me, my big brother Ed Brown, he got killed in 2016. He was one of the reasons like I enjoyed boxing and going to tournaments because he would always travel with me because he's from Chicago. And he'd always like ride when we do road trips with me, and he made it fun for me. So before I started liking boxing, he was kind of the reason why I did it.
Hmm. What's one thing that you learned from him, just as an overall life experience?
Oh, he his thing was enjoy life pretty much, like have fun.
Hmm.
He always wanted to be laughing. He made everybody laugh all the time. And I don't even think he was doing it on purpose. He was just being himself.
Um, let's talk about your pro debut. Can you go back to that moment in time, that ring walk, walking into the ring, first time as a pro? What were your initial emotions going into that?
Um, my pro debut was in California. Uh, Going into it, I'm trying to remember. I wasn't really nervous because I've been doing it my whole life. Like even today, like when I fight, I get nervous for maybe a couple minutes, and then that's it. But even my pro debut was like that. I just so I don't really in Chicago. I didn't really know a lot. Like I know pro boxers from Chicago, but I didn't personally have anybody to like, I guess, guide me or give me like any like blueprint or advice. It was just me and my dad, and my dad wasn't a professional, so we just like learned on the job. So at that, when the pro debut was, uh, it felt like a moment of like, okay, we doing the right thing and we doing it the right way. So
Yeah.
I just felt I was accomplishing something, turning professional when I didn't have like an example around me in my vicinity to see how it's supposed to be done.
Hmm. Well, what do you see as the biggest difference between your pro debut and who you are as a fighter come this Saturday?
Oh, I think I am a completely, completely different fighter from my pro debut, even from 3 years ago. I'm like completely different. My style, everything is just completely different. Uh, because I started training with Coach K maybe 3 years ago, and maybe a little over 3 years now. And that was when I started to make the transition from being like fighting like an amateur to fighting like a professional. And now I think I got it now. So as a my pro debut, I was slapping with my punches. I was trying to be like super fast and just throw a whole bunch of punches. Now I'm more settled down, and even my confidence is my confidence is higher. To I think that's a big part of boxing too. Is even like people being confident. I think sometimes confidence is even more important than like your boxing skill. Just because if you're confident in yourself, you believe you can do things. Sometimes it happens.
What has been the biggest transition for you going from that more amateur style of boxing to a more pro style boxing? What was the biggest transition or even challenge for you?
I think the challenge for me was I know people want to be fast. The challenge for me was slowing down.
Hmm.
I was always everybody always told me how fast and quick I was. So I guess I would always try to be that when I didn't really have to try to be that. Like if you're that, you're that.
Yeah.
So that's what when I first started training with K and everybody around us, he was like, slow down, you don't gotta try like and rush. Because in the amateurs we only had 3 rounds, so it was like kind of like fast paced and it was rushing. And I kind of didn't get out of that until the like 3, 4 years ago. I was rushing, like rushing myself.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, just slowing down.
Well, I mean, Kay is one of the best boxing coaches in the game right now. What is some piece of advice that he's given you that's really resonated with you as you continue your pro career?
Um, the slow down thing, and he 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 always like preaches to make sure I take advantage of every opportunity because everybody don't get an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like it's people like I know I've been in that position before, so every fight he always texts me at the beginning of camp like, uh, remember where we were at 3 years ago. So make sure you focus and take advantage of every opportunity. Don't let any opportunity slip past because I like he didn't say this to me, but in my head when he tells me these things, I'm like, I know how it feels to not have the opportunity. I know how it feels to not have people believe in you, and now that people believe in me again, and I get the opportunities I'm getting, I make sure I take advantage of it.
Well, I that's a very important thing that you noted because earlier you said that your first pro fight, it was just you and your dad.
Mhm.
And I was very surprised by that just because of where you're at in your career now. And I feel like in this sport, it's so quick to chew you up and spit you out, especially if you don't have the right team behind you. And for you kind of like going into it as a lone wolf, to be able to be where you are today is remarkable. So what really was that transition for you? Like what helped you get to where you are today in your professional career?
I think the two losses I had, honestly, I think the two losses I had, honestly, I wouldn't. I hate to lose, but if I could, I wouldn't change it just because it helped me learn about myself. It helped me learn things about what I need to do. I think the two losses kind of shaped me into like my who I am as a fighter today, just because I learned what not to do. I learned what not to do. Like I was always focused, but I learned what to do to prepare as a professional in those for those moments. And those like I don't the two guys I lost to, they're not better than me. I know that. I don't think they're better than me. I just had to get myself together mentally. I had to get myself together physically because it's more like nutrition, everything. Those two fights are what taught me that.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest breakthrough. The two the so I know people say like losses are lessons. So those were literally two lessons for me.
That's very well said too. And it's different because in amateurs, your record really isn't the end all be all. You're still learning, you're still developing as a fighter. But then in pros, it's more of the boxing casuals that make the record such an important
Yeah,
thing. And
yeah,
it's frustrating to a true fighter of, it's more about, like you said, it's more of the lesson that you get behind each fight. It's not necessarily, and then also looking at people's resumes. I'd rather see somebody that has losses on their record that you see them try to fight people that are going to challenge them rather than people that just dance around the ring and are just cherry picking who they're fighting on a
yeah.
professional.
I think that's a big. I think that's why a lot of fights don't get made now because people don't. Because if you lose boxing, it like spits you out. Like, all right, he lost. Most times, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So you say that these losses have taught you lessons, but also I feel like as a fighter, your wins teach you lessons as well. Even with wins, there's always room for improvement. So looking back on your last fight, what did you learn from that fight that has helped you prepare for Saturday night's fight?
uh, I learned my last couple of fights. I've learned how to relax and get into my zone. Because before that, I wasn't really like I didn't. When I'd be fighting, I'd be boxing, but I don't know, my mind would be like all over the place. So especially the last one, like I've learned how to zone out and just focus on what I'm doing at the moment. Like I've learned how to like zone out. I don't hear anybody's voice I don't want to hear. I don't hear it anymore at all.
Mhm. Well, you said that you've been training for the past 6 weeks. What have you been focusing on in this fight camp leading to this fight Saturday night?
Uh, really, I've been focused on being defensively responsible because my last 2, 3 fights, I think that's been a big reason why I've been doing so good. And also just developing more power because that's what everybody used to say, like the knock on me was like I couldn't punch. But I've been seeing my last couple fights, when I hit people, they don't really want to engage anymore. So I think it's working out. So
Is there something specifically drill wise, or are you doing more like strength and conditioning work, or is there something that you could explain to the audience that helps you
uh
build your strength?
uh yeah, I do a lot of strength and conditioning work, but in the gym it's just K helps me and my dad too. They both work together. Like just working on technique with how I throw my punches. And so it's a lot of drills, basically. Yeah, he K drills me in. I just said it last night. I know I'm ready for a fight when I do like drills with K, and he doesn't tell me I messed up for a couple because he sees every little thing. So when I like last night, I was doing drills, and he didn't tell me one time I messed up. When I one time I was like, okay, I'm ready.
While you're prepared on your end, it seems like there's been a lot of changes in regards to your fight. Now, Julie just texted me saying that you have a new opponent under the name Rocky Murthel. So, or Rock Murthel. Can you explain anything about this fighter? Do you know anything about this fighter? Have you been able to watch any tape?
Uh, yeah, I watched some tape yesterday. I had seen his name before because I keep up with everything boxing. So like even when K, like other guys that train with us and he don't know who they fighting, he'll send it to me because he know most likely I'm gonna know him. So yeah, I seen some footage. He all right. He's okay. Good record. But I don't think he's on my level. So
Hmm.
it's gonna be hopefully I'll have a great performance and we can get on to something bigger.
What are your goals professionally and personally for 2023?
Uh, Personally, I just want to spend time with my family. Be get get time with my family as much time as I can, especially with my kids because I have to leave for camp so much. So that's whenever I'm not in camp, that's where I want to be with. And then professionally, I want to either at the end of 2023 either have a belt around my waist as a world champion or be ready getting close to it because I'm ranked number 13 or 14 in WBA, so I'm getting closer. So that's the plan, just to eventually get to that level.
Do you have any eyes on anyone at the moment?
Oh yeah, I want to fight Alberto Puello. He's the WBA champ. I mean, there's other guys. I want to fight any of the top guys. Really, I don't really care. Any of the top guys in my weight class. I don't care who it is.
I just ask you a bunch of random personal questions. You answer them as quick as you can. Okay?
Okay,
All right. Favorite sports team?
Chicago Bulls.
Of course, Chicago boy. Favorite food?
A good baked mac and cheese.
Favorite movie?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Favorite musical artist?
I listen to a lot of music, so it's kind of hard. Right now, my favorite rapper is ESTG, and my favorite singer is Brent Fayez. Right now, at the moment.
Favorite boxer besides yourself?
Say, Andre Ward.
Biggest fear?
Oh, failure.
Favorite holiday?
I would say Christmas, but my birthday is on Christmas, so I guess I can
Happy
say
early
my
birthday.
birthday. Thank you.
Favorite store to shop in? Any type of store?
Zara.
Okay. What was your first job ever, if you had one, besides being a pro boxer?
This is the only job I've ever had.
Not a bad job. Not a bad first job. Middle name, if you have one.
Mark.
One superpower you would like to have.
Um, is it telekinesis? The powers Professor X has on X-Men.
Country you would love to visit.
I've been there before, Italy, but it was for boxing, so I didn't get to do nothing. So Italy.
Okay, it's a good country. And uh, If you were a pro boxer, what could you picture yourself doing?
Wow. I've thought about this before, and I don't know. I thought about this a lot actually, because I don't know what life would be like without boxing. I'm sure I would find something good, but I can't come off the top of my head and think about it because I never thought about my life without boxing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, you're not going to box forever, right? But I mean, would that mean that maybe one day you'd want to be a coach or
Yeah,
maybe,
I do. I do. I do. I
yeah.
do. Yeah, I think that's in the future for me. But if I wasn't a boxer, I'd probably it still be doing something with sports. Might maybe not like a part of the sport. Maybe like I don't know, go to college for like sports broadcasting or something. I don't
Okay. Okay, awesome. I like that answer too. All right. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the show. I really appreciate it. And if you have any sponsors or anyone specifically you'd like to shout out, a message to the fans before Saturday night, now's your time.
know. Let me see. Uh, just shout out my whole team. Shout out my family because my family gets here tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. My daughter Nova and my fiance Jalen. And everybody can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Everything is Kenneth Sims Jr. So it's just at Kenneth Sims Jr.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, and best of luck for Saturday night.